Hey everyone, welcome back to the MHP Show podcast. I'm your host, Derek Vickers. I've got another guest for you today. And you guys know on the MHP Show, we talk about anything and everything that has to do with mobile home parks, operations, crazy stories that happen, dealing with the city, dealing with tenants, all the fun stuff that comes out of this business. And before we get started, I want to talk about our upcoming webinar. We'll have it recorded, so if this is released later, but if you go to learn.parkinvestingpro.com, I actually teamed up with a top broker in the industry, Armand Violi, and we talked about basically how to find these juicy off-market deals and the things that you can do and the things that people aren't necessarily teaching, and how you can find these deals off-market and how to actually structure that deal. So if you don't have any money, you can actually structure it to where you can actually still benefit from that and do these deals with no money. So, so check that out at learn.parkinvestingpro.com. All right. So my guest today, and so I'm on Instagram and stuff all the time, and I don't know how we stumbled upon each other, but I've got Mr. Dustin Wiskes here with me today. And so I see this guy on Instagram. He's buying parks. He's out on site, which I love. He's doing ice baths in, like the middle of winter, and there's snow on the ground. And we just kind of started talking back and forth. And I'm like, man, I got to get you on the show. So Dustin, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. It's the, miracle of social media there. It's got its pros and cons here, but one of the pros is definitely, just like you said, coming across like-minded people, and excited to be chatting with you here. I've met I don't know how many folks like yourself, in our industry here, purely just because of a couple posts or replying to something online there, and I was never a believer. Probably a couple of years ago, I was pretty turned off from all social media there. And then I was like, gosh, I had to take the leap here. And I'm glad because I can meet folks like yourself there, Derek.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's definitely pros and cons to it. Like there's dumb shit on social media for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the networking aspect of it is great. It's great, dude.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So are you still doing ice baths?
I wish I could say I am right now. It just happened to be so easy because I'm in Wisconsin, so the ice bath was just pretty easy to put together in the middle of winter. There, I could have at will there. I don't have a fancy setup. It's literally like a horse. I think it's technically like a horse trough for farms and whatnot there. So I put a little cover on it, put it outside in the snow, and I was doing that throughout the winter, just because I was training so much for some races and stuff. But now that it's warm out, it's like 80 degrees today. It's my rig doesn't really work, so I'm resigned to like filling up the bathtub if I want an ice bath.
Yeah,
so it's not as frequent.
So I actually recently I started doing cold showers, so I'm getting there.
Okay.
Right. And it's a gradient for me. So I used to actually go to cryotherapy a lot. I don't know if you ever done that before.
I haven't tried it.
Similar. I think it's like dry cold, it gets, negative, whatever it gets in there. Yeah. And so I think the wet cold is a little bit tougher. And so I started taking cold showers, summer in Florida. I'm sure the water's not really that cold, but it's pretty cold for me. So I'm going to get there. But here I'll have to get some fancy ice bath thing because, the other day it was like, feels like 112 degrees. Just something insane. So anyway.
Well, the good news is now that we've just mentioned it here, your, Instagram or Facebook or whatever is going to be flooded with ice bath.
I know
promoters or whatever like that. They still flood like my whole, timeline there and say, oh, this is the best. This is the newest ice bath there is. And this is the best thing there is. And sure enough, I like it. It pulls me in, but I gotta.
Yeah.
Anyway, I honestly think cold showers would probably be way worse. I don't know what it is about just like going from zero, ambient temperature right to an ice bath. I feel like the shower deal is just like, it's like pelting you with, I don't know. I feel like that would be worse. I don't know.
Walk away. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in there like after the gym, and I'm like, okay, I'm like panting a little bit. So
yeah, this is true. Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I know you're in the MHP space, and you have a 9 to 5 job too as well, right?
Yeah. So I still work full time as an engineer for like a paper products company, manufacture all sorts of stuff, toilet paper, tissue, towel, bunch of consumer products. So yeah, I still do that full time. Luckily, it's a home based gig, so it allows me a little bit of flexibility there to get some of that work done at the hours that it's typically your 8 to 4, 8 to 5 type of thing, but I do have flexibility to get up early to do some of that work, so I can hop on a call like this in the middle of a traditional work day there. So it's a balancing act with that. Sure. And family as well here. That I think
because you have 3. Well. How many kids you have?
Yeah, three young ones. 4, 3, and 1, and another one on the way.
Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, we're gonna do the 4 or 5 thing too. We want a basketball team, so
I think so. I think it's the way to go. I don't know
for sure. I agree. Yeah. So guys, listen. Dustin, he has a 9 to 5 job. He's got 3 kids and 1 on the way. Okay, and he still managed to buy mobile home parks. So what excuses do you have? That would be none. So anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that. But just, so tell me, so how many parks do you own now?
It's five parks right now. I'll just say though, they all are a bit, smaller by some folks' scales there. I hear people say on other podcasts, they're like, yeah, I bought a smaller park. It was 60 or 70 pads. I'm like, oof, that's big by my standards there. So so 5 parks, it's about a little over 100 pads total right now. So it seems, but I'm still looking for more. I technically have I don't want to jinx anything there, but I do have a 39 pad park under contract right now. So that's that would be the biggest one to date for me. And that feels, that feels sizable in my book, because I am managing most of this stuff on my own right now as well. So of course, with the help of like my wife, and my dad's doing a bit of stuff there on site, but that is, can be quite a bit of work at times there with some of the value add stuff going on.
For sure. I mean, the value add stuff is not, it's not easy. Like it can be a big pain, and it definitely can be time consuming and lots of brain damage. Like I'm just getting off the call we had this. I'm not going to get off on this, but pay for good electricians, pay for good plumbers, pay for good people, because we had this big project and we got this little dinky, electrician to do the work for us. And it's problems. Like we should have just paid the extra $15,000 to get the big company to come in and do it. And I know it's difficult when you're budgeting for these things, but the brain damage, the extra time and the mess ups, the extra permits and the screw ups with the city, like, it's probably worth $15,000.
Yes. No, this is true. That's been a big learning curve for me as well, as learning and then finding how to, find the right contractor for the job there. I'm still, 2 years ago when I bought that very first park, we had, it was on it was kind of like a master metered electric, which is very, it's somewhat unique.
Unique.
Yeah. So from day one, we had budgeted and actually negotiated this a bit as well. up front to say, no, we're not gonna, I don't want to deal with this, potential nightmare down the road. So we got quotes and bids to get that converted over. And luckily the local utility provider was going to be open to working with us on that. We just had to, pay for all the new pedestals and all that jazz and all the line fees of them trenching in the lines. But it was old infrastructure anyway. So they wanted to help. And by the way, that's like, I was actually shocked that they wouldn't give me more of a break, sort of, because they make a meter fee. That's a side note here. They make a meter fee. They're going to make, whatever, $30 fee times 30 more pedestals. That's like should be a good incentive for them to, cough up a little capital to, go put this stuff in here. But anyway, that's
not going to do that.
Yeah. So long story short, I utilized like the local guy to local electrician came recommended, and he was good, but he didn't have a big team. Yeah. So that meant everything just happened slower. And to this day, I'm still finding little odds and ends that aren't buttoned up, like stuff that everything's up and working, but the old infrastructure there is still kind of lingering stuff, kind of like sticking out of the ground, old, wires that aren't powered anymore or anything like that, but they're just kind of hanging out in some areas. And it's like, God dang it,
Yeah.
I don't think this would have happened with a bigger shop type of thing.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the mobile home park business. In this particular thing that we had, so we bought this park, like we buy stuff. We did buy, I don't know if I would buy these types of parks again, vacant park owned homes, mess, had deep value add. And so in this particular municipality, we were trying to sell these vacant homes, but the electric was jacked up. And so the city came in and said, hey, you can't pull a permit to do this because all the pedestals need to be moved from the back of the lot to the front of the lot. Okay. And so we're still going through this where we had like 10 pedestals that needed to be moved from the back to the front. And it's just been, it's not cheap, right? But this is on my due diligence list now. If I have to fix electric pedestals, I know I'm going to call the city and be like, hey, is there any crazy ordinance or anything that's new, or what are the new kind of ordinances for new electric pedestals? Like, you have to move it, or is there anything like that's a little weird? Because to move these things, it's not, it's not like you just pick it up and move it. Like, it's there's a lot involved in it. And so
what a hassle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And sometimes it makes you wonder, maybe there's a legitimate reason for that, but sometimes it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, why they force your hand and to bring you into this conformity of, you're like, well, what's the value to them there? It's some code, in a code or something like that. But it makes you really just makes you question, especially because you got to foot the bill, what am I doing?
Yeah, we had to put
compliance, or is there really a health and safety thing? Maybe I'd be glad to help you with any health and safety concern. But if it's just compliance for the sake of compliance, you're just like, come on.
Yeah. So how did you so you were working your 9 to 5 and then you found this business. How did you actually get into the trailer park business?
Yeah, I didn't start in it. Got my feet wet just with rental properties, duplexes, single family homes around. I'm near Green Bay, and I just had a colleague. Shout out Eric. Doubt he'll watch this here, but he was just a colleague of mine. Worked for the same company, and he was doing rental properties, and so I kind of picked his brain one time and just asked him, I'm like, how you doing this here? And he kind of gave me the scoop and actually helped me, get into that space a little bit there, owning a couple duplexes, things like this. And then, I just kind of got the itch to find something a little bit bigger, maybe, and frankly, maybe something that I could manage from afar, because I'm local to all of these duplexes here, and every single time I was compelled, to just go over there and look at whatever the issue would be, a leaky sink or what have you there. And it was just a time suck. I got to be really sensitive with that time. But I didn't want to pay, they weren't cash flowing that much where I could just pay, a plumber or a furnace guy to go over there every time there was a little issue. So it was a time suck. So that was, I think I started listening to, must have been Bigger Pockets. And, again, one point in time, I don't know how many years ago this was, maybe it was like 2019 or 2020, but Brandon Turner was talking about, owning a mobile home park. And I was like, that just sounds wacky. Why would you do that? And I don't know. For whatever reason, it stuck though. And I just kind of kept looking into it and then pulled the trigger on ended up doing the Frank and Dave boot camp in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. It was I think one of the first virtual boot camps that they did there. So there was no excuse not to just try to learn and see if this is for me here. So shortly thereafter, it was February of 21 that we got the first park there. So, and I just have liked it ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. And most of your stuff is tenant owned home park? Yes.
Yeah. Almost all of it there. With the exception of a few vacant park owned homes that we inherited there. And, technically one of the parks came with a single family rental that we still have it as a rental technically. But as far as mobile homes, yeah, I try to do that, exclusively is the tenant owned home there. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm curious as to, tenant owned homes, guys, like obviously it's less management to a degree as versus park owned homes. But I'm curious as to, you had all this stuff going on. You got your 9-to-5 job. You're doing this. You're buying, somewhat value add stuff. Maybe not necessarily deep value add. But how are you structuring your day to give time to the kids?
Yeah.
Basically, what I want to do is kill people's excuses right now. And so, how do you balance that with you're working out every day. You're a healthy guy. Right. You've got 3 kids, 1 on the way, and you're doing and you have a full-time job, but you have over 100 lots in 5 parks. So how do you structure your day to get all that done?
Yeah. It's, I'll be honest, every day is a little bit different here, but it always generally starts with, getting up and trying to get like a workout in. I'm getting back into running. So that really looks like kind of a long run first thing in the morning, so try to get up closer to 5:30 or something like that, get a run in, and then I'm back to make breakfast for the, the wife and kids there, and get, right downstairs to, luckily my office is, a few stairs down, down from the family room and stuff like that up there. But, then it's right, right to work. But then, like I said, that's where it gets, that's probably the most consistent part of my day that I can kind of plan out there. And then it's, balancing between the activities for the day there, whether that's the 9-to-5 activities or the, peppering in some of this stuff, because the reality is you have to do both during the day. You can't just say, oh, it's a grind at night, because if I need to talk to a contractor about a mobile home park project, I got to call them in the morning. Generally that's when they're going to pick up the phone or get back. I can leave them a message and then they get back to me later that day. So I have to I think you mentioned on a previous podcast, you're a big guy about writing everything out, checklist style. Yep. I got checklists for days here. This Same. Is my, yeah.
Same. I got my, where's my day here? Yeah, right here. And then I'm a big write it down
I don't, you know, I'm all about writing it down, and I start one either. I didn't start a new one today, but this paper is full, so I will now remove all the things I've scratched out and carry over everything I still have left from the previous day onto a fresh piece of paper. And then I know I just can't, my memory is not that great that I can just recall all those things. So I write it down. That thing just goes with me. If I have to travel for work, which for the 9 to 5, then that checklist comes with me, you know, so I can maintain that stuff even if I'm on the road or anything like that. So yeah, I don't know. That's about it there. And I try to, I said, it is a priority of mine to, you know, never neglect the 9 to 5. That is what I still work that, because, you know, I do enjoy it, and I do need to, I do need to work there. Cause, you know, again, I'm still in that building phase in the mobile home park side of things, where all of the, all of the cash flow, all of the revenue is getting put back into the business for value add potentials, infilling lots and things like that. And that can be crazy expensive. So, you know, I'm doing both. You know, that might not be the long-term thing. Once we can kind of stabilize what we got here, but yeah, for the meantime, it works. And, I got the support of my wife, you know, to help work through
important.
it.
It's totally important.
Yeah, she runs the show with all the kids and things like this. You know, even being, you know, 20 weeks pregnant right now, she is, you know, going, you know, keeping them busy. I think they're headed to a park right now. You know, she's wrangling them all. Yeah. So yeah, that's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. And my wife is like doing the same thing right now. I think she's, you know, got the kids, you know, somewhere. And she, you know, lets me go do crazy stuff. Right. And so I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without that. And it sounds like you've got the same thing kind of going on there.
Same.
So how are you finding deals right now? Because you seem to be, ever since we started kind of chatting back and forth on Instagram, you seem to be methodically closing deals on a regular basis. So how are you sourcing, and what does that look like for you?
It's a pretty mixed bag. I kind of get a laugh out of it, because the very first deal I got was the place where deals usually go to die, and that was LoopNet.
Hey, we've bought from LoopNet. It
works. So. I haven't found one since, but, you know, sure enough, it was this deal came up. It turns out to have been the best deal I've ever bought. And yeah, it was advertised as a 28 space park, and this was the same one that had master meter electric. They failed to mention that in the advertising.
Oh, of course.
Portion of it there, but again, the broker, super nice woman, but she just did not know the right questions to maybe even ask to, like, in order to even advertise that, you know, correctly. There is what I kind of found, or I got the feeling of. So anyway, it all worked out. But so yeah, it was, you know, LoopNet there. The second one was sort of a direct to seller through our. Well, it was actually, this might be a little tip here, but if you're looking for deals, your local housing, it's called, in Wisconsin, it's called the Wisconsin Housing Alliance. And it's basically just the, what would be the best way to describe that? Just, you know, it's like, your,
is it like an affordable housing, like a state affordable housing thing or something, or?
Yeah, it's your state kind of like committee on manufactured housing. There's a term for it. Most states have them,
like a manufactured housing association kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like it's like an association there. Yeah, and sure enough, after joining that, when I bought the first park, they actually maintain a small list of local other members of that. That are looking to sell their property. So sure, I don't really know how I stumbled on that, but sure enough, I found the guy, wanting to potentially sell another park there that I was interested in. And it turned out that turned into like a year process of me just following up with him, because even though he had it on that list, I think changed plans or whatever, and that got pushed off for another year. But I was the only guy that kept following up with him and just checking in with him to see. And that, sure enough, that turned into a transaction there. Third and fourth were brokers. It was just another broker in the space that focuses on parks in Wisconsin here. And sure enough, just got with her at the right time, and was able to do that. And then this last one has been just a direct to the seller that this is the one I have under contract right now. So it was just, in the same town actually as the very first one I bought. So it was just me calling, the owner up saying, "Hey, an owner of this other one here. Are you open to selling at some point in time?" And honestly, that's not how I started the conversation. It was more like asking him, different questions and things like this along the way. But it materialized into sort of a relationship that I was able to just, ask him one day, "You think you'd ever consider selling to me and not the 100 other people that have been calling you?" Sure enough, that's how it worked. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I think, that's, one thing you mentioned there is following up. Like, you followed up with the one guy for a year, and so he sold to you. And I preach this more than anything. Like, this is not the Wolf of Wall Street. Like, you're not going to one call close somebody. Like, It's just not going to happen. These guys have owned these parks for years and years and years, and you have to develop a relationship. It's their baby. Like, you're not, they're just not going to get rid of, they're not going to give it to you on one call. You have to at least build that trust with them. And it sounds like that you did that very well. And also too, guys, but there's tons of brokers and wholesalers calling these guys. And if you're calling as a local investor, it sort of gives you an advantage. And especially if you're going to go meet them on site. I was just talking to people in my mentorship program about this. I'm like, guys, I know if I get on site with a seller, they're going to sell to me. I know it. Like, I know it. Because if I go and spend 2 hours or 3 hours, 2 weeks ago, I went and spent 3 hours on site with a guy. We haven't came to a deal yet, but I know for a fact he's going to come to me when he does actually decide to sell. And if that number's stupid, we'll move on and he'll send it to somebody else. Right. But I think that's so important. And one thing you mentioned too about LoopNet, like, so a deal that we bought on LoopNet, same kind of thing, broker, residential broker, didn't really know what they were doing. Like, they thought, I think we bought this park as a 40 space park for $2 million in St. Pete. And I know if you're buying, I don't know what you're paying per pad, but you're like, man, 50 a pad. Like, that's a lot. Right. But in here, it's not. And so we knew we were stealing this park. The broker thought he was ripping our heads off. That park's probably worth $4 million now. We get $800, $840 in rent there.
For lot rent?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's St. Pete. Like, it's right in the middle of St. Pete, Florida. Like, it's there's like no affordable housing. It's a great area.
Wow.
But anyway, so you can find deals on LoopNet. You just gotta, there's a lot of garbage on there, but you can find it. Sure.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's it was kind of nerve wracking for the very first deal there being on LoopNet, just because there was so few details about it. But it turned out, turned out for the best. And I think that one was more like, do the math here quick. We bought that for it was like 530,000, and that was 28 spots, so 19,000 a lot. So that that's a scale of difference there. I think it's worth quite a bit more than that. But and we've actually added like 7 spaces to there and got them full and what have you there. So now it's doing quite well there. But yeah, that's the little bit of different. I think that's where stuff's trending though. Even in Wisconsin here, we don't have lot rents. I don't think anywhere in the state that, well, I shouldn't say that, but I haven't heard of anything quite so high.
Yeah.
Maybe I think 400 and 500 is towards the top end. And then maybe if you're in like the heart of like Madison or Milwaukee or something like that, where you can push past those numbers there, 600 or 700. But
yeah,
I think that's where some of this stuff is trending. I've seen a couple parks trade for 50 to 60,000 per pad. And that was pretty, to me, I was like, oh my gosh, like
in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Like, is this the new benchmark? But some of those were like, so I really like the western part of the state. That's where a couple of my parks are right now, because it's sort of in proximity to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, but it's still on the Wisconsin side there. So anyway, I think the proximity to that, even though it's not in the MSA of Minneapolis, it kind of is, because a lot of my residents go that way for work and stuff like that. So you're like, sometimes you can't always trust like the borders that are established with like the the county lines and stuff like that all just, when you go on best places and stuff like that say, oh, you're actually in an MSA or not. Some of them, I think the border towns and stuff like that would still be in there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you've got, a park where your residents are working in the big MSA, that's big. And even if you're looking in just the town and it says, 3,000 people live in this town, right? But it's close to whichever large MSA, like that's still a good deal. So don't, this is a tip when you're analyzing the market, even if you're on best places, you need to look at the map, look at not only looking at the city or town that it's in, but then looking at the county, the metrics of the county that it's in, and then looking at the metrics of the actual MSA that it is in, because on best places, you can actually click up on and change between county and MSA or wherever you're at. So I just wouldn't look at the town on that. So that's a good point.
Yeah. No, that's pretty huge. And I probably have, I would say like, one park right now that's clearly, I think those statistics really matter for what it's worth. Like I've, technically two parks right now, they're kind of near each other, but they are clearly in a different, they clearly have different metrics, from like median income, housing prices, some of the common ones people talk about, the 3-bedroom apartment rent, using that as a judgment. So like the prices of some of the housing there, and sure enough, that is less than all my other parks, and it is harder to sell houses. It's harder to sell houses, and it's harder to keep them occupied. People just don't have as good of jobs, and industry is just not as prevalent. So yeah, lesson learned. Still making that one work. Still in the progress up, adding more homes in there, but it's clearly slower. I'm bringing in homes, and I'm taking a loss on the ones I'm selling in order to just get them occupied, and that stings. Sort of. It
does
every time,
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's so true. And if you listen to what Dustin's saying, because we've experienced this too, that, we've gone just a little bit outside. So for example, like Tampa, Florida, the market is just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can't, if home comes available, it's sold, the next day. We got a list of people. But if you move up into a different area, say Ocala, still a great market, but it's slower. Right? You're going to sell homes slower. Instead of it taking a day, it's going to take a month. And I think the smaller the market that you're in, like the longer it's going to take. And we've had to learn too that, looking at some of these markets that you're in, and if you run a test ad on Facebook Like, so if we ran a test ad in Ocala, Florida, around there, like, we're going to get tons of, like, you're going to be like, oh my God, the demand here is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've actually found is that none of these people can pass the background check.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so that's one thing that it's hard. Like, the people that are answering to your test ad, like, you can't background check them all.
Right.
It's just something to keep in mind. Like, if you're getting a bunch of responses, and it's a smaller market, just make sure, because if if 100 people answer your ad and 95 of them have a 400 credit score, like, are you going to let them live in your park? I mean, probably not.
Right. That'd be tough. No, that would be tough. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think it's just something to note. It's just something you wouldn't find running a test ad, because if you ran a test ad in this market, you'd be like, damn, dude, like, this is smoking. Right.
Yeah.
And so we've had to learn, because it's been slower in that particular market.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. I'm a big, yeah, I was just gonna finish that point. I was just, I actually just passed on a deal that was like 45 minutes from this one, purely because I just don't like the market. It had so many other things going for it. I don't know how common it is in Florida there, but in Wisconsin here, we own almost all of, like, the streets, like, inside of our park. Is that how it is in Florida too, where you have to maintain the streets as well?
Yeah.
Okay. But in this case, so I have one park that's actually on the city streets, and it's super nice from I don't have to maintain the streets. I don't have to snowplow the streets.
That's nice.
And this one, so this one had city streets, and it also had direct build utilities there, where the local town was taking care of all the water billing and maintenance of the water and sewer lines. So it was actually like the holy grail from all these other perspectives, but it was in this tiny little market, and I just didn't want it, just purely from the market and knowing how much pain that would be to bring in homes and sell them there. So anyway, yeah. So that's been, I've been giving more weight to the market than I have in the past, just from learning what I have on this deal that I have right now.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, in a market that we're in, like, if you looked at the numbers of this market, you'd be like, dude, this is a smoking market. 500,000 people, 400,000 people, whatever it is. Median home prices are relatively high. Wages are relatively high, 40, 50 grand or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a renter's market, and selling houses and stuff there is difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. Everybody wants to rent. And so it's very, very slow. But when you look at the numbers, you're like, damn, dude, yeah, I want to buy in this market. And, so you sort of, I don't know how you would find that out in due diligence. Maybe you talk to other investors in that market and things, but it's just one thing to note too, that even if the market looks fantastic, it may, it may not be.
Yep. I've got a couple of those that actually come to mind there, that I've did that same exact thing. I got through a recommendation from somebody else. He's like, that looks good, from every metric there is, but he said something to the effect like, I just can't sell homes there or what have you there. So makes a huge difference. So
yeah, no, it totally does. So what's the future? How big are you going to get? Are you just going to keep plucking these things off, or what's kind of the plan?
I think pretty much I'm playing it by ear. I've never had a goal to, I should say more like my goal has always been to get enough income that I'd feel comfortable walking away from my full-time job here at some point. I'm not in a rush to do that at this point. But by the same token, there, I don't want to get maybe this is a fantasy or something, but I don't want to get too large that I now have to hire someone and be responsible for their actions and monitoring their work. And I know that maybe that's a little short-sighted or what have you there, but I'm trying. I think there's probably a sweet spot out there where I can get maybe 200 or 300 pads or something like that I can still, again, after they're full and after they're kind of optimized or whatever you want to say, I feel like I could run those effectively by realistically kind of by myself and feel good, and be more than comfortable with the cash flow and things like this. And then, if it gets too much, then you kind of go down, sell some off or something like that. But to me, I've never had this ambition to just like have this huge portfolio, because I feel like that would eventually turn into, I see guys like you, I see guys like Andrew Keel, all those guys, they got teams. You guys got teams and teams looking for you here. And that's never been a huge appeal to me. I've always just wanted to like provide for, my family here and not be overburdened by, not to say that you guys are burdened or anything like that, but I don't want to, get to that point where I got to make decisions of hiring a bunch of folks and then, because I'm trying to, I'm just trying to buy back with all these properties. I'm just trying to buy back time basically so that I can get more time, work on the business when I want to. And then, spend time with some do some family stuff. We like traveling. We like camping. We like doing all sorts of stuff. And I'd rather, that's kind of the end state or the dream there is getting to that point where I've got the flexibility to do any of that there and not have to worry about whether somebody's having my best interest in mind when they're working for me and stuff like that. So I'd rather keep it in house as much as I can. And I don't know what that I don't know what that limit is right now, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going until I find out, I guess.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Totally get where you're coming from. There's definitely, in my personal opinion, I think you can probably, if you're all tenant owned homes relatively stabilized, you can probably, with what you've got now, hammer up to 300, maybe even 400 lots. 500, it starts getting a little, 1,000, everything breaks. Like the systems that got you to 500 don't get you to 1,000. 2,000's another animal. And you're not wrong about any of those things you said. There's employees and, it's hard to have everybody on the same page. It's hard to, there's definitely pros and cons to it. Because even if you look at it, like if you own 20% of 2,000 lots or you own 100% of 400 lots, what's really the difference from a net worth perspective? So the other thing that people should think about, like with that being said also, so the person, if you have a larger portfolio, then someone may come in and buy it for a premium. And so whether you would sell your portfolio at, for example, just 50,000 a lot or 100,000 a lot, you may get 125 or 75.
Sure.
Right. You may be able to sell at a 4.5 cap versus a 7, right? Or a 5 cap versus a 6.5 or whatever. Right. And so there's definitely pros and cons to it. Sometimes I'm like, oh God, this is just, there's just stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you have that many properties, there's always something interesting going on at one of them, typically. Like, so there's definitely pros and cons to whatever you decide to do. But I will, so we met with this guy that had the guy I met with for 3 hours. I tell people this all the time. One deal can change your life. Just one deal.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, he was a sheriff. He was a sheriff in this town for, 25, 30 years or something. And he bought this one part, it's RV and MH. And, I think he hadn't accepted an offer yet, but he's going to get $4 to $4.5 million for this thing. Like, it's just one park.
Yeah.
Like, and he makes, it brings in 35 grand, 40 grand a month. This guy was, he bought it way back in the day. He was a sheriff. And, one park can change your life. One park can really provide you with, that extra cushion that you need. And some people, you don't want to go get 4,000 lots or something. Right. So it's all in what you want. But one park can actually, change your situation dramatically.
Yeah. No, that is, on a bit of a smaller scale, that's kind of what happened to me here with that first park, the ability to bring in homes and expand it a little bit, and then add homes to the part we expanded in the last 2 years. I mean, that alone has allowed, because I'm funding all these just on our own here. So, we don't have that much, that high of a W-2 income or anything like that. So it's, I'm using, I'm refinancing, these parks, these properties, as soon as I add some value to them, in the ability to pull out some of that equity to go and put towards the next deal here. So it's been every deal and every bit of value that you can add to these things is pretty significant, and big game changer for us here is finding these here that we can add a little bit of value to, from rents, from utility bill back, from infill. And that's been the process we've been kind of applying here. And it's been a game changer for us ever since we got started. Only, it's only been like 2.5 years, but I think net worth has gone up tremendously. All of that is pretty awesome. We're just waiting. And so is my wife too. She's waiting, when are we going to stop, putting so much back into them, and, maybe reap the rewards a little bit of what these things should be cash flowing if we weren't, reinvesting everything here. So that day is
it'll come
in here. Yeah.
It'll come. Well, cool. Dustin, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know our listeners are going to get a ton of value about what you talked about, because, look, guys, again, I'll mention it again. Dustin has a full-time job, has over 100 lots. And he's got 3 kids and 1 on the way, and he works out every day and jumping in ice tubes, and he's doing ultra marathons and all this crazy stuff. So look, you can do it too, guys. You can do it. And thanks, Dustin, for coming on the show. And we will see you guys next week. Please like, comment, whatever. Let me know if you like the show or don't like the show. Would appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week. Peace.